Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We are here to kick off a new vlog on the channel. And this one is a much needed one for me because we're going to be tackling some of the books that I've received for my deep Vellum subscription. So this I've had, oh gosh, I think maybe a full year now, if I'm remembering correctly. I think maybe a full year, and they send a book almost every month. I think there's like 2 months out of the year where you don't get a book. The books have been stacking up. I have read a couple, but I have the majority of them still on my TBR. So I really want to get to some. One, just to read them and like get through the books that they're sending me, but two, to try and give you an understanding of whether or not this subscription might be a good fit. I know sometimes a subscription to a small press, or really a subscription to anything, can feel like a lot of books that you're not picking yourself. I think there's merit. I've done some with other independent presses as well for like temporary chunks of time. And I think there is some merit to like letting someone else push your reading taste a little outside your comfort zone for a period of time, right? You don't need to keep a subscription forever. So we're gonna go over just really briefly the books that I have remaining on my TBR from the subscription. And then maybe I'll give you a little bit of a like my understanding of Deep Vellum as a publisher. I have an independent publisher taste test from them that I'll link down below if you want a much deeper dive on them as a publisher, but I'll just give you some anecdotal thoughts on what I think about them and the types of books that they publish so you can get an idea of what you can expect. Here is all of the books I have left. So I haven't read any of these. Like I said, I've read a couple of them, but they're on my read shelves now, not concerned about them. But these are the ones that I still have not read. And there's a lot of interesting titles in here. So we're going to go over them one by one. I just have them in size order. There's no particular order. I didn't put them in the order that I received them. So I think this actually was my most recent one though. This is the only nonfiction that I've received so far, which is 14 Ways of Looking by Erin Vincent. This is from A Strange Object, which is one of their imprints. They have a few imprints. So A Strange Object is, I would say, like, in fact, strange. I think I said this in the haul video for this, that these are more like avant-garde books a little bit. This really reminds me of the Clarice Lispector covers that New Direction was doing, but it's a tiny little hardback. This one is a nonfiction about Erin's experience losing both of her parents in a car crash when she was 14 years old. And then the number 14 starts to haunt her. So she's trying to process through like what the number 14 means in her life and process through grief. So I'm really intrigued for this one, and not one that I would have picked up on my own if they hadn't sent it to me. So that's the first one. Second one, this was one of my anticipated releases. And I will actually say 2 of the books that they've sent me were 2 that were already on my anticipated releases list and on my radar. I'll go over those 2 next. First one is The Animal on the Rock. This is by Daniela Tarazona, and it's translated by Lizzie Davis and Gerry Dunn. This is from their just main imprint, and this is a metamorphosis novel where the main character, I think she thinks she's turning into a lizard or some type of like reptile, and this sounds very intriguing to me. It's also a very short, squat book, so I'm excited that they sent me a book I already knew I wanted to read. So that's the first one. Next one is Things and Thoughts. This is another one I already knew I wanted to read, again from their main imprint, and this is by Alla Garbanova and translated by Elena Alter. This one is a collection of short stories that have, I believe, they have like a horror bent, like a speculative horror bent, but they also have fairy tale like qualities to them. So excited for that one. Then the rest are, again, ones that like I wouldn't have necessarily bought myself, but happy to have them. We have Lady's Almanac. This is by Djuna Barnes, although on the front it doesn't have her name. It says by a lady of leisure because this was originally anonymously published. This comes from their imprint Tbahki Archive Press. And this was a journal that was published 100 years ago. And it's kind of labeled as a lesbian manifesto. It looks so cool inside. So let me show you some of the images. It has original illustrations as well as stories from the author. So this is the first story, The Kiss of Death. And yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool. And they've tried to do a really good job of keeping, I think, the original integrity of what the journal looks like. So there are some times where the page is like split in two. So there's like two stories going on at once. Very fascinating. I'm so excited they sent this to me. This might be the one that I am most excited for. So that is Lady's Almanac. Then we have Woodwind Harmony in the Nighttime by Reza Gassemi. This one is translated by Michelle Quay from their main imprint. And this one is kind of got like a mystery speculative element. So we're following Yadala, who lives in this apartment complex. There's a lot of interesting characters, and there is this man that moves in that calls himself the Prophet. And then Yadala ends up, something happens in the apartment. Yadala ends up having to investigate a murder that happens there. And then at the end of the blurb, it says it's his own murder. What? I don't know, but it sounds fascinating. So really happy to have that one. I'm going to stop saying that because I feel that way about all of them. Then we have one that I had not heard anything about before, and that is What Remains by Layla Erbil, translated by Alev Ursan, Amy Marie Spangler, and Mark David Wires. So 3 translators on this one from their main imprint. This one is a novel in verse. So let me show you kind of what it looks like in there. And this is a Turkish author. And this is about Istanbul, about the vast changes over her life that she's noticed, about the political changes, about class changes, lots of stuff like that. So I am really excited for this one. I haven't read a novel in verse for a little bit, I feel like. So that is What Remains. Then we have Married Life by Sergio Pitol, translated by G.B. Henson. This, again, main imprint, and they have been publishing the translations of a lot of Sergio Pitol's work. So I'm excited to have this to try him out and see if I like his writing, because if I do, they have a lot of other stuff from him. This is kind of what the title suggests. It's about a marriage. And I think we're following a disillusioned wife after her husband cheats on her. This is a Mexican author who's known as a satirical writer. So I'm excited to get to try his style, and I am grateful that I get to try his style in a short snippet. That way, if it's not for me, which satire can really go either way. I love some satire but don't like some others. So we'll see how I feel about this. Love this like bright pink simple cover. Then we have the only backlisted title that they have sent me, and this is Lookout by Christine Byl. This is from A Strange Object, one of their imprints. And this is about a family who lives, is it Montana? It just says the American West, but something is telling me, oh yeah, it is Montana. So a family that lives in rural Montana. They have a farm, and I think it's really just about the family, like a deep character study novel, and also an examination of the rural American West. So that is Lookout. Think maybe like a sister novel to Lonesome Dove. Again, that's speculation. I know people love Lonesome Dove, but yeah, only a backlisted one they've sent me. So interesting. That is Lookout. And then lastly, we have a poetry collection. They have sent me others, but I've already read them. This is the only one I haven't read yet. This is Terror Counter by Fargo, Nassim, Tbahki or Baki. This one I have heard really good things about, so I was very grateful when I got this and I was like, ooh, I'm excited. And this author is Palestinian, and I think it's writing a lot about the Palestinian existence. I think they're also queer, so it's talking about queer life and liberation. So really excited to have this one, and I just love that really simple image on the cover. It's so evocative, like it's so sad and lonely. So yeah, really happy to have this one. So that was already a very long intro. We need to get cracking on this. So here's what I'm thinking. You let me know what you think I should pick for these books, but this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I should read the poetry so I can give you an idea of the type of poetry that they publish. So I think I'm gonna pick Terror Counter. I think I'm gonna pick Lookout since it's the only backlisted title that they sent me. And then I think for the other two, I think I'm gonna pick 14 Ways of Looking because it's the only nonfiction they've sent me. I'm trying to do a wide range, can you tell? And then I think for the other one, I'm just gonna go for the one I want to read the most. And the one I wanna read the most is Lady's Almanac. So these are the 4 books I'm gonna read. Maybe I'll add more on, I don't know, but these are definitely the 4 that I'm going to read to try and give you an idea of what the subscription is about and just to hear about these books. So with all of that, I'm gonna go start reading and I will come back. Hello everyone, we're here to do a quick update because I have started a couple of the books for this vlog. I have started Lady's Almanac. I'm halfway through. It's pretty short. I think it's only 100 pages. So I'm halfway through. Here is the illustration for the story that I'm about to start. And this is really interesting so far. So it is definitely sometimes challenging to read. I'm in the flow of it now, but it is in a dialect of English that is very dated, and that's apparent as you read it. For example, like if I read you just the first passage of the first story. Now this be a tale of as fine a wench as ever wet bed, she who was called Evangeline Musset, and who was in her heart one grand red cross for the pursuance, the relief, and the distraction of such girls as in their hinder parts, and their fore parts, and in whatever so parts did suffer them most, lament cruelly, be it itch of palm or quarters most horribly burning, which do oft occur in the spring of the year, or at those times when they sit down upon warm and cozy material, such as fur, or thick and ornamental rugs, whose very design, it seems, procures for them such a languishing of the haunch, and reigns as is insupportable. On and on and on. That's not even the end of the first sentence, right? So we have run-on sentences, lots of commas, lots of asides, lots of capitalization of regular nouns that they're like kind of wanting you to infer that they're being used as proper nouns. They're capitalizing them. So it takes a while to adjust to that, but I do feel like I'm adjusted now. And yeah, I mean, it is like a scathing satire, like gossip column scorning lovers past, and it is juicy in that regard, but it is kind of just taking me out of it, the language a bit, but sometimes it's funny. So I'm kind of going back and forth with it. So I've started that and enjoying it enough so far. And then I've also started Lookout. I think I'm 57 pages into this, so not very far in. And this is a Western, essentially. We're following, I think I said, the Kinsler family who are living in Montana. And an interesting thing about this is we get a ton of different perspectives, not just perspectives of the family, but outside the immediate family, like to extended family and friends, neighbors, that type of thing. But the vast majority of the perspectives are from the youngest daughter. What is her name? Cody. She's like 8 or 9. And normally, I think child narrators, are difficult to write, but I'm really enjoying her perspective. She has the right balance of like being naive, but also observant, and she's reading believably as a child of her age. And the other really interesting thing about this is the father of the family, Josiah, we have not gotten from a perspective from him at all, but a lot of the storytelling is about him. It's almost like everyone's view of him in the community except for his own, and that has fascinated me as well. Yeah, I mean, we're getting like some aspects of everyday life. We are getting some flashbacks about how Josiah and his wife Margaret met, and we're getting some of the farm life, particularly from the perspective of Cody, and she is the one who, like, she really loves the farm, and then her older sister Louisa does not like the farm and is much more modern in a lot of ways. Like, she wants to hang out with boys and she wants to go to the mall and those types of things. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far and really looking forward to picking this one up. I think it could be a really good fit for me. So that is Look Out. So that's the update for now. I will check back in with you all once I've read a little bit more, but I would say so far, so good. And I will see you in a second. I have so very many updates to give you. Also, I have my windows open, so if you hear additional living noise in the background, that's what it is. Yeah, strap in, because we have a shit ton to catch you up on. My apologies. I feel like lots of stuff just happened one day after the next, and here we are. So the first update is I have finished Lady's Almanac. This was, oh gosh, very fun to read. I know I said before, this is kind of like a lesbian manifesto. It's set up like a chronicle, so it has a story or one or two stories or like a poem or a song for each month of the year. And so like it's separated in the 12 months. And she has created these kind of fictional characters that are all based off of people that she knows in her life and are lesbians that she is in deep relationship in her life. I'll say it was very up and down on if I felt like the story was well written or not. Some I thought were really smart, were really witty and funny, and other ones I was like, this one isn't very good. But I think the best part about this book is just the history of it, knowing that this was written almost 100 years ago and thinking about the audacity of something like this coming out and being published is really cool. And I felt like connected and rooted in that time frame, maybe because I had that lens in mind, but I really enjoyed like just witnessing this piece of history. And I think it's also even funnier that she puts on this like Old English dialect, because that wasn't like what people were talking in at the time. She's very much like doing that affect to, I think, continue to be satirical, and really enjoyed it. So yeah, in terms of like the actual quality of the stories, I think it's up and down, but really just cool as a piece of history to get to see. So I would recommend it for that reason. And yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this or not. I'm sort of going back and forth because I don't know if I'd ever reread it. Thinking about it. I will let you know if I decide in this vlog. So that was Lady's Almanac. And then I also have started and finished, since we last spoke, Terror Counter. This is by Fargo, Nassim, Tbahki. This is, really true. I don't know, maybe that's a dumb way to put it, but that's what comes to mind. Is like, it's just so true. Like, it's sad and it's bleak, and I think the author is really trying to explicitly call out how the Western world harms and perpetuates the killing of Palestinians, and like trying to find collective meaning in being Palestinian. This author talks a lot about their father, and sort of has this ongoing joke that their father is reluctantly a part of all of these poems because they make it so. Yeah, it does a good job of calling out how a lot of people in the Western world want to like speak on behalf of Palestinians, and that's extremely harmful and dangerous to Palestinians to do. So much good, just true content going on in here. In terms of the actual artistry of the poems, let's call it, there are sections that I like more than others. Particularly the section that I didn't love is this. It's called Gazan Tunnels, and they're all of these type of poems, and there are little rivers, tributaries that run through the poems. Like this one, you can see it, and there are words in this little river that you would read in order. These just didn't work for me. I found them confusing to try and understand. So that section I didn't love. And then maybe the one other section is there is one where all of the poems are written in capitals and they look a little like scattered like this. These, I think some lines I loved, and then there would be sections where I didn't really understand either, but all of the other sections I think are fantastic. I particularly love the last section, which is one very long poem that is written in tribute to someone that they know, and that poem I think is really emotionally affecting. I also think it does such a good job of connecting through lines from the rest of the collection into that last poem. And the last thing I'll say about this is connected to that. So I read this in a single day, and I don't often do that with poetry. I feel like sometimes the book sort of like tells me how slow or quickly I should read it. And this one just felt like my intuition was like, I think I need to read through this all together. And I'm happy that I did, because the sections are so tied to one another in small and big ways. And it did allow me to see or like notice a lot more of those connections because I did it in a shorter amount of time. I was able to more easily remember like little pieces that came up in the sections before. So I liked that reading process of it, but maybe as you're reading it, you might want to read it more slowly. But I did like that because there is a lot of connecting elements. So yeah, enjoyed this. Think it's well worth anyone's time to read it if you actually want to hear from a Palestinian voice, and happy to have read it. So that is Terror Counter. And then about this time, I started to realize that I think all 4 of the books that I chose were the only books that are not translated, which I don't feel good about. So of the 9 books I think that I showed you in the beginning, 4 were not translated, 5 were. And maybe part of why this matters is Deep Vellum is the biggest publisher of translated books in the US. So that's like a huge part of what they do. And I just so happened to pick the 4 books that were not translated. So I was starting to think about like, okay, maybe I should add one more book on. And I am going to do that. But the timing was serendipitous because I was like, okay, I need to add another book on, so let me pick up the next one so I can kind of keep it moving. So I picked up 14 Ways of Looking by Erin Vincent. This is from A Strange Object, the imprint of theirs. This is the nonfiction that is about her experience after her parents die in a car crash when she's 14 years old, and she feels like the number 14 just holds a lot of like significance in her life and keeps showing up. And so this is told in little snippets that say something about the number 14. So for example, I'll read you one. This all started innocently enough. One day I noticed the word 14 in a novel I was reading. The next day it happened again in a newspaper article, then a TV show, a film, then another book. 14, 14. I did not go looking for it. It came to me. Now I can't look away. But for example, like the next passage right after that is on page 14 of W.G. Sebald's The Rings of Saturn. There is half of a black and white reproduction of Rembrandt's The Anatomy Lesson of Dr. Nicolaes Tulp. A white line, the gutter of the book, cuts through it, severing the body in two. Page 14 shows the top half, which includes the deathly face but excludes the skinned forearm, which appears on the next page. And then the next thing will have nothing to do with that. So the next thing is about her doing religious studies when she's 14. And on we go. And this is not going to work for me. I already knew. I read like 9 pages and it really reminds me of Bluets by Maggie Nelson, which people love and adore. I do not like that book. I think with a book like that and like this, there are some snippets that I love and think are very profound and feel like move the overarching narrative along, but most of them I don't get much out of. I just know that this is not going to be for me. So what I would say is, if you like Bluets, you should absolutely pick this up. This feels very reminiscent of it, and I think you'll really like it. I know it's not going to be for me, so I'm going to DNF it. So that is this one, which coincided with me wanting to add a book on anyway that's translated. So I decided, I know 2 of the books that I introed in the beginning were ones that were anticipated releases for me from last year. So I wanted to pick one of those, and I decided to go with Animal on the Rock by Daniela Tarazona. This is translated by Lizzie Davis and Gerry Dunn. It's from their main imprint. So I'm going to be picking this one up shortly. And then the last update I'll give you is, since I filmed my last clip, I've actually received this month's package for my subscription. And in that package, I got The Blue Book of Nebo by Manon Stephen Ross. And this one is translated from the Welsh by Manon Stephen Ross, so by the author themselves, from their main imprint. And this book might sound familiar to you. I feel like it had some popularity. Clearly, it's won an award, so it won one of the Carnegie medals. Deep Vellum originally published this book in 2021 in a hardcover release, and this is their new paperback release of it. So you can see the image there. It's very beautiful and I'm excited to have it. So this has come in since. Part of me was like, oh my God, do I read this too? But we're gonna see how it goes already. There's already 5 books in this video. So I will be reading this one. I'm adding that on. I will be starting it soon. And then in terms of Lookout, I'm still reading it, still enjoying it, but I'm gonna wait to give you another update until I finish it. There we go. Do you need a summary of what I just said? Finished this, enjoyed it. Finished this, enjoyed it. DNFing this. Starting this. Received this. Still reading this. There we go. I will see you in the next update. Welcome back. It is early in the morning. I'm tired, but I wanted to give you an update on Animal on the Rock because I think I'm gonna end up finishing this very soon. I'm reading this morning and I think I'm just like flying through this. So I didn't want to have another book that I read all the way through and didn't tell you. So I'm currently like 120 pages in. Ooh, this book is really different and I'm enjoying that about it. So I think maybe I told you that this is a metamorphosis novel. So our main protagonist, who I think is unnamed, is having a transformation, turning into some type of reptilian creature, which you can kind of see the scales on the cover. And it's got this kind of dreamlike quality where I think as the reader, you're meant to question, is this actually happening? Is her DNA actually mutating and she's turning into a reptile? Or is something happening to her mind related to grief and trauma? Because this book starts off in the aftermath of her mother's death. Is it her mother or her sister? They are both dead, but I think we start off right after her mother dies. And yeah, so I think you're left to question kind of what's going on here. And my guess is this is not the type of book that's going to answer that. I think the questioning is like part of the fodder for us to think about, but enjoying that process. And it is a really, unique take on a metamorphosis novel. It is disjointed in a way that I like, which is interesting because I know I just DNF'd the nonfiction book because it's like those little vignettes that for me speak to like, this is gonna sound mean, but like a lack of craft. Like I can't see the craft that I'm sure the author did in organizing those vignettes. They feel so disjointed to me, like I can't place why she would have done that. And it just feels like they're one-off bits of information. Anyway, this feels opposite, that it is kind of disjointed and like it's also tiny vignettes, not quite as small. I'm trying to show you with my chin. So the chapters are like a couple pages, and the chapters themselves include like these line breaks. Here's one that I can show you. So you can see like there's that paragraph and then a line break, and it kind of goes into a different paragraph and a different thought or experience that the main character is having. And I think the effect of that is we get the confusion, the newness of the transformation played out in those vignettes. And again, like I like being able to at least suspect that that's why it's being presented that way. And the other part about this that I'm really enjoying so far is there's almost like another witness that we as the reader get in the book, which is this man who finds our narrator one day lounging on a rock. She's clearly not doing well. She's kind of emaciated, and he takes her home and is also like witnessing and documenting her changes. And I think it's an interesting perspective that for us to read because it kind of mimics our own perspective, but it's him just like accepting it. I think it kind of gives the reader also permission to just accept the transformation. So yeah, really enjoying this so far. I'm probably going to finish it today, and then I'll give you a review of what I thought overall once I'm done. But so far so good. So that is The Animal on the Rock so far. I will see you in a little bit. I finished the last couple of books for this video, so we're gonna go ahead and dive into them. Let's see, what is it that I finished? I finished The Animal on the Rock first. I read this in just a couple of days. It's very propulsive and reads really quickly. Plus there's like a ton of white space on the pages. So there just aren't that many words, but I did want to show you, I don't think I mentioned it last time, there are occasionally some hand-drawn illustrations in here that sort of depict what the narrator is describing about her changing, and that was cool to see. It kind of does help you put it into perspective, and I like how crude the drawings are because it makes it feel more realistic. So I know I said a little bit about this last time, but some additional things that I noticed here. This could really be an extended metaphor for so many things, and I think the book wants you to feel that way, right? It wants you to grapple with a number of different life events or life phases or circumstances that might mirror this feeling of being different, of feeling inhuman, and it does a really good job of depicting that. I think it also does a good job of talking about love, platonic love, and the love of a partner or a mate sometimes in this case, and then also the love of a child and how complex those can be, and giving some different perspectives on how you might frame those relationships in your life. You know, she has takes that are maybe in the minority, but definitely exist, and we don't get a lot of representation of, so I appreciate that as well. I'm trying not to spoil anything, so I don't want to tell you specifically what those takes are, But yeah, I thought it was a really fascinating character study on a woman who is transforming, whether that be physically transforming, emotionally transforming, spiritually transforming, kind of all of the above. But I really enjoyed it and happy to have read it. So that is Animal on the Rock. And then I have also finally finished Lookout by Christine Byl, and this again is from A Strange Object, one of their imprints. And I know I picked this because it was the only backlisted title that they sent, and I can really see why they sent it. I'm not sure if they send this to everyone when they start their subscription. This was the very first book that was sent to me when I started mine, or if it just happened to be the one that was coming out that month. But this was such an emotionally powerful gut punch for me. It is, like I said, following a family in rural Montana. It's deep character studies of this family, although we get particular focus on Josiah, the father, and Cody, the youngest of the two daughters. It is about their coming of age. Even though Josiah is already a man, we do get a lot of history and see his upbringing, his adolescence, mostly, not necessarily when he's a young kid. And there is this unfolding of Cody, but the rest of the family as well, really coming to terms with, do they actually know him, and figuring him out more. So in some ways it's a coming of age for him like that, like they're discovering more about him. And then with Cody, it is a true traditional coming of age, right? She starts as a very young child and we get to see her well into adulthood. And this was powerful. It definitely made me tear up. It does not hold back any punches. And while I would say it is a slow-paced character study, it also has twists and reveals that, would I say unexpected? Yeah, actually I would say some of them are definitely unexpected, and I really loved it for that. I don't want to give away, there are two main themes in here that I think are kind of spoilers, but they're the main themes of the book. So it's a little bit hard to discuss it, and they're not in the blurb necessarily. There's like a wink in the blurb, but it's very subtle, so I don't want to ruin it for you. So it makes it so hard to talk about this, because what it's really grappling with is unfolds as you read it, and you don't know it going into the story. But maybe what I can say I did really love is I just love how it shows all of the nuances of being a family, and the way that they relate to each other can be so different, right? Like each of their relationships are really singular to each other, and they have very unique relationships to each individual person. I liked the realness of that, how, you know, the sisterly relationship is much different to Cody's relationship to her father, is much different to her relationship to her mom, and the ways that we can feel left out of our family, and also a true intimacy with members of our family, the pros and cons that come with being similar to someone and come with being different. Like, it just shows all of that, right? It's a really rich tapestry of what it's like to be a part of a family, and I loved it for that. Very moving, and would highly recommend. So that was Lookout. So in this video, we have read 5 different things. One of them was a DNF. So here are the 5 books that we have. I would say if I had to rank them, oof, gosh, I do think definitely my favorite was Lookout. It's also the longest of anything I read here, so that could be contributing to it. A close second I would say is Terror Counter. These are the 2 that I'm probably going to keep in my collection. And then next up, I would say it's kind of a tie between The Animal on the Rock and Lady's Almanac. I enjoyed them, but I don't know if I'm going to keep them around. I might pass them along because I don't imagine rereading them. And then of course the DNF, which is 14 Ways of Looking. I will pass along to somebody whose taste it aligns with better. So yeah, I think if I look at the subscription books that I've covered in this video, and maybe some of the ones that I've read already, these do such a good job at capturing the breadth of humanity. And I think that's something that Deep Vellum really tries to do. They try and find eccentric, underrepresented stories. And I think you really see that in these books, right? We have like a lesbian almanac that's almost 100 years old. Like, who else is gonna publish that? It's a wild thing to publish. We have Palestinian poems that are brutal and scathing. We have a very Bluettes style nonfiction about the number 14 and how it shows up in this woman's life. We have a very Kafka-esque metamorphosis book that's coming from Mexico. And then we have Lookout, which is a story about rural life that I think is going to be very unexpected for people in what it talks about, and has a lot of reverence for the land and this part of the world. I should say this author is a professional trail builder as her other profession, and you really get that like deep intimacy with the land, and I loved that. So such, yeah, vastly diverse stories. I love that about Deep Vellum, and hopefully this gave you an idea of what the subscription is like if you're interested, or just some more info on the publisher in general. They really are one of my absolute favorites. I think they just publish stuff unlike any other publisher. And in a publishing landscape where people often comment about the sameness of the books that get published, they're really not doing that, right? Like, they're breaking the mold in so many ways and taking a lot of swings and big chances, and mad respect for them doing that. And I will keep picking up the books that they publish. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you're interested in any of these books. If you have done the Deep Vellum subscription, let me know what you've loved. I still have a few others on my list that I need to get to. And with that, I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.